It's a new year, so it's time for another entry of poetry. This year I've selected four. Last year I had three. The theme of that was to take action in your life, take risk and take action in your life. This year the theme is advice. We're going to look at four poems. This one's not so much a poem as in poetry form. It's from Hamlet. It is Polonius, who, well, you wouldn't suggest that he's the wisest person in the world, but he is saying goodbye to his son, who's on his way to France, his son Laertes. And he comes across Laertes. He said, "Dude, you still here? Come on, you got to get going." And as he's walking him away, he gives him some advice. So, sort of advice from a father to a son. And you'll find that the theme of the poems flows in that direction. Advice to younger people, sort of coming from wisdom to youth, which is typically the direction that advice flows. Advice is paradoxical, that oftentimes you won't recognize something as good advice until after you need it. Then you'll say something like, "Well, I wish I would have known that then." Chances are you did know it, or you did hear it, or you did read it. It wasn't relevant to you, so it didn't register. That is sort of the ironic thing about advice, is that you only recognize it to be good advice after you could have used it. So let's see what Polonius is saying, and I think the best lines are right at the very end here. And these few precepts in thy memory, see thou character. So these things I'm about to tell you, take them to heart, because they'll really make you. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. This line here is saying, listen, you don't always have to say what's in your mind. You don't always have to tell people what you're thinking. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Some things will make you angry, but you don't have to act on every single thought you have. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. This is saying be friendly, but don't take it too far. Kind of a modern way of saying it is, relax with the locker room talk, right? Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. So of the friends you have, the ones that, over time you've come to trust, and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. Keep them close. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hatched, unfledged comrade. Dull thy palm. Don't extend your hand out to everyone. When you shake everybody's hand, you're dulling your palm. Do not extend your friendship to just everybody, right? Do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. I don't think I need to explain that. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. In other words, listen to the opinions of other people, and even the criticism. Take the criticism. Reserve judgment until you hear every side of an argument or a debate. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy. Habit is your clothes. So costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy. So in more modern times, avoid the trendy, fast fashion stuff. You want to dress conservatively. That's what rich means. Dress for the station in life that you're. I guess you would say that you were born to, but not gaudy. For the apparel oft proclaims the man. How many times have you heard that, right? The clothes makes the man. The apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France, of the best rank and station, are of a most select and generous chief in that. So dress for the crowd that you want to be a part of. Dress for the job you want to have, not the job you want. I'm sure you've heard that before. Neither a borrower nor lender be, For loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This is so bloody true. If a friend needs money, give it to them. If they give it back to you, well, then they're just as much a friend to you as you are to them. If they don't, you gave it to them, right? You didn't expect it back, so you don't have that animosity there of, I lent you money and you never paid me back. You just give it to them thinking, well, I'm never going to see it again, and then it's over. If you get it back, you get it back. These are the best lines here. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the day the night. Thou canst not then be false to any man. What is he saying in here? To thine own self be true. There are lots of people who lie to themselves, who don't come to terms with who they really are, or they deny their true selves. I once knew a guy like this who felt that his job was such that he couldn't date certain women. He says, well, I can't be seen with someone who dresses like that or looks like that, even though he was attracted to a certain type of look in women. He felt that he couldn't be seen with them in public. He'd be judged. So he wasn't being true to himself, right? And the line, thou canst not then be false to any man. In other words, you're not going to come across as a phony. I think that's a powerful bit of advice. To thine own self be true. Live an authentic life, and don't worry what other people think. You know, you're not trying to hide who you are from other people, or come across as somebody you're not, or pretend you're somebody you're not. To thine own self be true. If you owe truth to anyone, above all, you owe it to yourself. If there are aspects of your personality or your behavior that you don't like, or that are part of you but you think other people will not like, be honest with yourself and say, this is who I am. And you can be genuine. And in being genuine, we can come all the way back up here to your friends. Those friends thou hast and their adoption tried. How can you get to that point? These are my friends and I trust my friends. They've proven themselves to me. Unless you are true to yourself and true to them, right? To thine own self be true. And then at the end he says, farewell, my blessing season this in thee. In other words, it's his hope that this advice will remain with him and help build his character. Next poem, or next bit of advice, comes from The Guest House. And the author is credited as Jalaluddin Rumi, some 900 years ago. Where are we, 2021? So yeah, about 900, 850, 900 years ago, 13th century. The version on this side is a translation by Coleman Barks. It's probably the most common one that you'll see. But it takes a lot of poetic license, I guess you'd call it. There is no poem called The Guest House that was written by Rumi. It is a translation of a bunch of different texts, a very long text, really, and not just a translation from one language to another, but a translation really from one culture to another. The writing from Rumi was written within the Islamic faith. Coleman Banks strips it of that and makes it a little bit more, I guess, welcoming for a Western audience, and attempts to keep, the basic message of what was being said. So we'll read it in both ways, the Coleman Banks interpretation, and the best interpretation from Farsi, because he was Persian, the best interpretation from Farsi, and this is much, much longer. It goes on for pages and pages and pages, but we'll read how it originally translated, as close to what's written here as possible. The idea of this is that the emotions that you have every day, and we're human, so we experience these: joy, sadness, sorrow, anger, rage, revenge, that all of these, conceive of them as visitors to a guest house, that you yourself is the guest house, and these are visitors, and not so much to think of them as visitors, but the idea that visitors are just passing through. They're not there to stay. That any emotion you have, it will pass. Happiness is fleeting, but so is sorrow. Sorrow comes and it has a purpose, but it will pass like everything else. So if you treat it like a guest house, and these are guests in the house, you know that, well, they're checking in for a period of time and then they're going to check out. So let's read Coleman Barks first. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. I find that it's like when I first read this, I thought, okay, I get it. It's a neat little analogy, but I don't know that this really does a good job. When you go to keeping it, from Farsi to English, as opposed from Farsi to English and then English to a more secular tradition as opposed to Islamic tradition, I feel it loses a lot. So let's read as close as we can to what lines up with what's written here. And you can see how the advice is flowing to the youth. This body, O youth, is a guest house. Every morning a new guest comes running into it. Beware, do not say the guest is a burden to me, for presently he will fly back into non-existence. Whatsoever comes into thy heart from the invisible world is thy guest. Entertain it well. Every day, too, at every moment a different thought comes like an honored guest into thy bosom. O dear soul, regard thought as a person, since every person derives his worth from thought and spirit. And then this part here takes a longer journey through this first part about sorrow. I think I really wish Coleman Barks would have spent more time with that. If the thought of sorrow is waylaying joy, yet it is making preparations for joy. If it is waylaying or spoiling joy, it is making preparations for joy. It violently sweeps thy house clear of all else, in order that new joy from the source of good may enter. Isn't that just exactly how it feels? Nice words here. It violently sweeps thy house clear. It scatters the yellow leaves from the bough of the heart, in order that incessant green leaves may grow. It uproots the old joy, in order the new delight may march in from beyond. Sorrow pulls up the crooked, rotten root, in order that it may disclose the root that is veiled from sight. Whatsoever sorrow may cause to be shed from the heart, or may take away from it, assuredly it will bring better in exchange. I find that clumsy in there. Whatsoever or things whatever things sorrow may cause to be shed from the heart, or may take away from it, assuredly it will bring better in exchange. Whenever the thought of sorrow comes into thy breast anew, go to meet it with smiles and laughter. And this, again, I feel is more in line with sort of a meaning that I would think is a lot more profound than something lighter like this. Is sorrow and loss. These are natural parts of life, and you're going to have to deal with them. I think today, far too often, we feel that we don't have to feel bad. We can take drugs to avoid it. We can take different medications that, I shouldn't have to feel this way, or I shouldn't have to feel that way. And I think that's part of the human condition, is you want at different parts of your life to feel all of these things. That if you think of yourself as a guest house, and these are guests that are arriving, they're checking in for a while, and then they're going to leave, right? They're just passing through. Sorrow will pass. When my dog died, oh my God, I tell you, it was brutally hard for me, because he was my best friend. And it felt, 2, 3 days in, I felt I can't live in this house any longer. I see him everywhere. I have to leave. I can't stay here anymore. I mean, it was rough. The nights were probably the hardest, and then it passed. And now I have nothing but good memories, and now I can never leave here, the house I have in Canada, because he died in the backyard. My neighbor, who's a vet, came over and put him down in the backyard for me. Now it's a special spot for me. Now I can't leave, and it's nothing but good memories and good feelings. That visitor was passing through, but that visitor did check in for a while. So any advice you can give to somebody younger is, look, you're going to have these moments of loss in your life, whether it be a girlfriend, whether it be a family member, whether it be a beloved pet. It will pass, and it does make you stronger. In fact, it's moments like that make you more gentle in life, right? Cleans you out for something new. I think if I had to choose, I would probably stick with the translation into English without losing the faith that it was written in. Okay, our next bit of advice comes from Max Ehrmann, 1927. Desiderata, which is the plural of desideratum, which the dictionary says it's things that you should want, or things that are needed. So this is just a bunch of advice of things that you as a human being should have, things that you need. And in quite a few places, it echoes back to the first one we saw, Polonius speaking to his son Laertes. I'll draw that parallel when we get to those lines. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As you get older, you will begin to enjoy silence more and more. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. That's the important point. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. There are some people you don't want to be on good terms with. These are just bad, nasty people. That's what that means. As far as possible, without surrender. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Back to Polonius. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant, right? Give every man thy ear. Avoid loud and aggressive persons, and they are vexations to the spirit. I like this next one. I've used this line quite a few times. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter. I prefer, if it were vain or bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than you. I've said this many times. If you compare yourself to other people, you'll either become very proud or very jealous, because there'll always be somebody better than you that has more than you, and you'll always find somebody that you're better than and that you have more of. It's the wrong comparison. You always compare yourself to yourself yesterday. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. So even though you're going to run across these people, and you will run across people who will want to lie to you, use you, steal from you, defraud you. You can't avoid this. If you're going to be among people, this is going to happen to you. But it's saying, don't let that color your view of the world. Many persons strive for high ideals. Everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Going back to Polonius, right? To thine own self be true. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Don't be a phony. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years. Listen to your elders, right? Gracefully surrendering the things of youth. This is an important line. You have to know when in your life to start leaving the boy in you behind and becoming the man you're going to be, or leaving the girl in you behind and becoming the woman you're going to be. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. In other words, don't worry about there's a bunch of stuff that we worry about that never comes to pass. Most of the stuff we worry about never really happens, right? Do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. This is leaning more towards fate. I'm not a big fan of fate. I think we are masters of our own destiny. I don't quite think that whatever happens to us is part of some bigger plan, but okay. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. I think that's a decent enough trade-off. And whatever your labors and aspirations and the noisy confusion of life, keep pace with your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. The final poem is sort of like the first one, a father imparting advice to his son. We see this at the very end. Only at the very end we see that Kipling is speaking to a son. A very short title, If. Probably the beginning of the fourth stanza are the more often quoted lines. I like the first four because I think you can bring this down to the market very nicely. So we'll go through it here and I'll narrate as we go along. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. I kind of liken this to being in the market. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, when the market is selling off, I've said many times, those are my favorite days because things go on sale. I don't sell into the selling, I buy into the selling. And blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, this is the core of being a contrarian, right? But make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. This is pride, right? And try not to be too pompous. I know it all. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, I like to think he's taking a shot at academics here. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. I'm going to stop here. What word grabs you in that line? If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. Right here. Imposters. Why are we calling triumph and disaster imposters? And I've never really, I've looked around. I've never really come up with a good answer for this one, but I think probably the best interpretation is that triumph and disaster are just things that are going to happen to you through life. You're going to have victories, you're going to have losses. None of them define you. And I think that's why they're called imposters. They're just simply things that happen to you in the course of your life. You're never going to win everything and you're never going to lose everything. And victories, much like defeats, are fleeting. Defeats don't define who you are. You don't stay down, you get back up. And victories don't define who you are. You're never going to stay at the top all the time. There'll always be victories and losses. I think that's why the word imposters probably fits there with that interpretation. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. This, if you're thinking about a philosophy, this sounds very close. I don't know why I put the cross in the S to Stoicism, right? Is just to bear it in silence. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I like these two lines. These are the most often quoted line. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch. I like those two lines. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. I work out quite a bit. Even in my younger days, I worked out quite a bit. And every time I worked out, especially with somebody else, my message to them was, you leave everything on the floor. Don't take anything with you. Everything you have is in every single set, right? If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, if you're going to do something, you lean into it. You do it. You leave everything you got, you leave it on the floor. I like those two lines. Anyways, this one doesn't require a lot of analysis. I think it's fairly straightforward, but the theme running through all of these is advice. And if you followed along closely, you'll have noticed that the sub-theme is the direction in which advice flows from age and wisdom towards youth. So listen to your elders. They do have things to say. And if you go back to Polonius, give every man thy ear. Take every man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. And tape this to your bathroom mirror. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, if you can do that every minute in everything that you do, life is beautiful. And that's it. Happy New Year, and I hope you enjoyed the poems.